Oh, that's why I love this triple.
This is a Tracer 900. The way that I like to think about this is, imagine if an MT-09 used to be the captain of its football team back in high school, and now it's in its 30s and 40s. It's still working out, it still lifts, it can still run, it's in pretty good shape, but it's older, it's toned down a little bit, it's more relaxed, and dare I say it, a little bit more adult. And in that sense, this bike should not work at all. It should be boring, it should be watered down. But for some reason, this is still one of the most popular sport touring bikes out there. So today, we're gonna figure out why this dad bod MT-09 is so damn popular.
So in an effort to figure out why this thing is so fucking popular, I figured the first thing I would do is take it down a twisty road, because the MT-09, the most recent generation, the MT-09 and the XSRs, handle really, really well. So I would assume that with the semi-active suspension on here and with the same frame and the same motor, that it should handle pretty darn good. The first thing I can say is, yeah, it handles really well. It's got a really nice kind of, I don't know, it's not particularly darty into corners, but what it is it's nice and smooth. It's easy and predictable. And that's what you would want if you're, you know, doing big, long tours. You don't want something that feels kind of twitchy and aggressive and wants to just dive into a corner. But, you know, if you're out there riding around on your twisty roads and you want something that's a little bit more responsive, this may not be it. It carries its weight really well, which is nice. But one thing that I'm noticing is the motor doesn't feel as immediately punchy as the other XSR MT bikes do. It definitely feels a lot more linear. It feels a little bit more like a traditional triple, and I would reckon that some of that is down to the fact that this bike is carrying a lot more on it. It does when you're kind of in like the middle of the power band, when the little like dash bar goes green, it does have this nice initial whack of torque if you're to open the throttle up. So as I come around this corner, we'll let it sit straight for a second, and then like it's got this good punch, right? It definitely feels like it wants to lift that front end up, which is nice. Feels a little bit more playful than your typical sport touring motorcycle. But there's this kind of, it's still an MT-09, right? There's this layer of, it's still kind of stupid at its core. And so when I'm sitting behind these cars on this road, it's like, come on, man, let's go. I want to get after it, which I appreciate. I really like that in a naked bike. And I love seeing it here in a sport touring machine. I do want to talk about the seating position real quick, because we're going to mention it a handful of times throughout this video. It is super, super neutral. Like, it is the most motorcycle seating position I've ever been in. There's no forward lean. It's not like couched out like a Harley, although, you know, this thing's got bars, so you could put your highway pegs out here. But it actually does make it a little bit difficult to move around on the bikes. However, there is one legitimate black mark that I have to give this motorcycle, and it is down to Yamaha reusing components to a ruthless degree. This front brake, that's not okay. The performance of this front brake is underwhelming, to say the least. It's the fact that Yamaha cheaped the fuck out and they put a rubber hose between the brake caliper and the master cylinder. And that actually brings me to some of the other stuff on here that I'm not enjoying about this bike, that kind of feel a bit like Yamaha essentially breaking the bones of the XSR 900 or the MT-09 and turning it into this sport touring bike.
For this segment, it's actually going to be helpful to go over the specs before we dive into anything else. So this is powered by the 890cc triple that's putting down the same 117 horsepower and 69 foot-pounds of torque nice, as the MT-09 and the XSR 900. This thing does weigh 485 pounds though, compared to the XSR's 425. Now I'm sure some of you may be wondering why I chose the XSR in that little comparison, and there's actually a very good reason for that. There's a second set of specs that shows that the bones of the Tracer 900 have more in common with the XSR than it does the MT-09 despite its appearance. This thing has a 25-degree rake angle and a 59.1-inch wheelbase to the 24.4-degree rake angle and the 56.3-inch wheelbase of the MT-09. By comparison, the XSR 900 shares the same 25-degree rake angle, and it has a 58.8-inch wheelbase. So this thing is much more of just a dressed up XSR 900, which kind of makes sense. Just look at this motorcycle. It's a lot longer and a little bit lower than the average MT-09. It definitely feels a lot more stout and closer to the ground. That's a big reason why this bike is a little bit more lazy when it's coming to a direction change. And when it comes to acceleration, this thing is just a little bit heavier and it's got the longer wheelbase, so it's a little less wheelie inclined than the MT-09 is. I will point out though, in my twisty road section, I actually had it in drive mode 2 instead of 1. So that's gonna help slow the bike down a little bit. And that actually gives me a perfect opportunity to talk about the dashboard on here, which is just one of the goofiest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, we literally have the eyes off of Wally as the dashboard. You've got the little MT-09 dash, which doesn't do it the decency of having the XSR's divided first section. You've just got a half a tank and then 3 1/3 segments for the bottom half, which makes this a much more useless gas gauge. And then over here we have this like parameter display, and you can actually set every single one of these parameters to be the same. So one of the things that the guys at AF1 were joking about is you could have the odometer here, 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 and here, and basically just be sure of exactly how many miles the bike has on it. It's paired up with the exact same left side cluster, which makes it a bit of a pain in the butt to navigate these screens. And they're honestly not that bright. It's a bit tough to see them, especially with polarized sunglasses when you're looking at it in direct sunlight. Another thing I'm not a fan of is these pinchy style adjustments for the windscreen. Sure, there may be a couple of different settings, but when you're adjusting it while you're riding, it actually just turns into all the way down or all the way up, because that's the easiest way to get. I much prefer those ones that have a dial that raises it. It's more mechanically complex, so it's a little bit more expensive to make, but they work better. Another thing I'm not a big fan of generally is the exhaust note of triple cylinder motorcycles. I know that's sacrilege to some folks out there, but it's another reason why I think that this shouldn't work as a sport touring motorcycle, because this thing's got an Akrapovic exhaust on it, so it's a lot louder than a stock bike, and these motors just tend to drone on the highway. I find their exhaust a little bit grating after a while, and yet somehow I can look past that while I'm riding. It helps that it's got a baffle in, so it's not that loud, but I don't love the sound of this motor as a touring bike engine. And then lastly, this bike definitely inherited the MT-09's looks despite getting the XSR 900's bones. And as a result, it's kind of ugly, but I kind of find it ugly in an endearing way, a lot like the Super Duke. I kind of see it as being this more mean, futuristic thing, whereas some of the MT-09s are just, they're just really weird looking now. But I don't know. I don't really see the bike while I'm riding it. I'm just out there having fun. But one thing that is being seen a lot is the back of your head. And while you're out there riding, you may as well make it as visible as possible. And that's where we get a word from today's sponsor, BrakeFree. Regardless of whether or not you're riding twisties, whether you're doing big long tours, or even riding off-road, this is one of the easiest ways to increase visibility while you're out on your bike. This thing lights up whenever it senses any kind of deceleration. So whether or not you're rolling off the throttle, grabbing your front brake, or using your quick shifter to downshift an engine brake that way, this thing is gonna light up, letting everybody behind you know that you're slowing down. And I think the real beauty of this is how simple it is. There's no wires, there's no connection to your bike. It's literally just a self-contained light and a sticky pad on the back of your helmet. It also means that you can swap this from helmet to helmet really easily. So if you're like me and you got a bunch of different helmets, you only need the one BrakeFree light and it swaps over in seconds. If you're commuting on your motorcycle or you're caught out at night a lot, this is a great way to communicate with other drivers out there. And it makes sure that if they miss your tail light, they're not gonna miss this on the back of your head. If you're at all skeptical, I highly recommend you check this thing out in the link down below, where I've got a discount code to get yourself $10 off your order.
Now, another reason why the triple motor is just a really bad touring motor is because it's very vibey. These are high-pitched, high-frequency vibrations going straight through the bar, and there's basically nothing you can do to balance it out. That's probably the biggest negative I have towards this motorcycle and this platform. As I ride it, even though I have a generally loose grip on the bars, like I'm barely holding on, I'm doing the screwdriver grip track day thing where I'm not really gripping the bars all that tight, I still have this buzz in my fingertips at the end of a ride. And I haven't ridden this motorcycle straight for more than like 30 minutes at a time. So that's not awesome. let's be honest. Something that helps that out a little bit is the cruise control. Easy to use on this bike. It's really simple. You just turn it on and then down and you're good to go. It's a simple system, which I appreciate. It also has the roll forward to kill to turn it off. I also really appreciate that. There are a lot of motorcycles that are kind of not including this as a standard. It's really stupid to me that this isn't standard. Now, I do want to go back to the bars for just a second, and specifically the vibration through them. One of the ways that I've found to get away from the high-pitched vibrations is to shift into a higher gear so that the motor's not spinning as hard. However, when I do that, the bike actually feels kind of gutless. So you really do kind of have to drop a gear if you want to pick up the pace again. And it's annoying. I'm having to micromanage this vibration, and not great. However, comfort-wise, now that it's slowing down, I don't get any heat from the motor. It's nice and cool. And then the seating position, I mentioned it before, but it's about as neutral as it gets. It's like totally zeroed out. I'm just sitting here, and it's super comfortable. The seat is actually kind of stiff, which works for this motorcycle. It's definitely a seat that I could sit in for hours and hours, but honestly, the package it continues to just work, which is nice, and it gives me an opportunity to go back into the Twisties and start wrapping up my thoughts a little bit. Man, the more that I think about this motorcycle, the more I ride it, the more I understand why it's so popular, right? Because they took what was already a really fun motorcycle and they made it easier to live with every day in some places, and then in some places it's just the same old because Yamaha is relentless about reusing stuff. Why redesign something when you already have the parts sitting on the shelf? I mean, it makes sense. It's so unique to get on a sport touring motorcycle like this and have the front end just float off the ground as you blip through the gears. And I think that's something that is missing in a lot of other sport touring motorcycles, at least for me, right? If you're the kind of guy or gal who's out there riding their motorcycle and using that as a vehicle to get from place to place, like from national monument to national monument, and you just want the motorcycle to be the vehicle that gets you there, you don't really have some sort of desire to go really carve a canyon or experience this like just goofy, playful motor. If you're just out there cruising and crushing miles, this is probably not the bike for you. Don't get me wrong, it can do it, but it's just more fun when it's ridden aggressively. When you're out here just goofing around, that's when you see its more fun, playful side. Some of it's like, oh my god, those brakes are so bad. Some of the stuff on here just isn't doing it. Like the stupid gas gauge and the bad brakes because of that fucking rubber line that Yamaha chose to use. Yeah, it gets it done, but it just doesn't do it right. And yes, you have to co-sign on a butt-ugly motorcycle. because all of the MTs are just butt ugly, and this is just a fat MT. But none of that matters when you're carrying all of your crap in these saddlebags and you're riding down to like the Twisted Sisters or whatever. This is the perfect bike to go do that with, because it will get you there comfortably, and then when you're there, you're on a motorcycle that is just truly fun to ride. Because it is so stupid, and it's so singular in what it wants. And in that sense, it's a horrible sport touring motor. But the bike that it's in, it just makes it so much more fun. And so in a way that shouldn't work, it works. I don't know, man. I rarely ride sport touring bikes that just have me with an ear-to-ear smile on my face, with quick shifters this nice, and handling this, like, I don't know, loose in a fun way. Because the Yamaha, the suspension that's on here, yeah, it's semi-automatic and all that stuff, but it still is a little loose and wiggly, just like all the other Yamaha suspensions. But then when I go around this bumpy corner right here, I don't feel like I'm getting knocked off my line. I can carry it nice and smooth. It's going to tighten up here, look deeper, add a little power. And if I was in second gear instead of third, it probably would have picked a wheel up. And it'll throw you back in the seat. You know, it's a little smoother on the pickup than an MT-09 or an XSR 900. But who cares? Who cares? Just have fun. And I don't know, that it's this beating heart that lives within all Yamaha motorcycles and KTM bikes, and not really any of the other big four. Maybe Suzuki to a lesser extent, but Suzuki just doesn't care. So in that sense, their bikes become fun. But the beating heart of every Yamaha bike is just this have fun mentality. Just go goof around, do something dumb. And today, the do something dumb is put one of the rowdiest triple cylinders out there into a sport touring bike and see what happens. And it just kind of works. And that's why I think it's so popular, because it doesn't become this plain Jane method of transportation. It's still a fun bike. And that's why I have to get this thing back to the dealership so fast, because there's a test ride scheduled on this in like 2 hours, and I have to be back in time so that guy gets it. And I know for a fact, if he doesn't buy it, the guy who's coming to test ride this bike, if he doesn't buy it, the next guy will. And it's probably because this guy's gonna be like, oh, you know what? I need to think about it a little bit, and then while he's thinking about it, somebody's gonna snipe it out from under him. I don't know. Yamaha, in their own silly, graded on a curve way, they knocked it out of the park. There are some problems with this bike, but it's fun. It's really fun. And that's all I care about when I get on a bike. That's really all I care about. And that's a solid thumbs up from me. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.